if I have new patients on my waiting list and I have my PTs doing treatments and services, I'm doing bad for the community. I'm doing bad for my patients. I'm doing bad for my business. If I have PTs and healthcare extenders, other people to do the treatments and the technique, I've got more opportunity to serve more people in my community with my expertise. Kick it.
Welcome to Strata Stories. My name is Thomas Schreiber, and I'm a director of marketing here at Strata. Strata is a single EMR platform and revenue cycle management service for physical, occupational, and speech therapy practices that helps you achieve a 99.99% reimbursement rate. On today's episode, Paul Singh, the CEO of Strata, talks with Jerry Durham, a PT and the CEO of the Client Experience Company. Jerry helps practices craft incredible patient experiences that help you grow your revenue. Jerry and Paul talk through Jerry's biggest takeaways from the Graham Conference, which is a conference for all types of physical therapy professionals to engage in open dialogue on issues affecting the industry of PT. Jerry and Paul also talk through why PT assistants are the most undervalued resource, evaluations versus treatments, and why we need to rethink the physical therapy model. And lastly, how to handle cancellations and cancellation fees at your clinic. If you'd like to learn more about Strata and see how our EMR and RCM works, head over to stratapt.com to book a demo. Now, without further delay, here's today's episode.
You're fresh off the Graham conference here that was just in San Diego here a couple days ago. I know it's kind of like Fight Club. You're not supposed to talk about it or whatever, but give me the okay for public consumption, Jerry takeaways.
I think key here with Graham sessions, and I'm going to say this out loud so nobody hears it. The key is I'm going to share my takeaways. I'm not going to share with you specific people that were there. I'm not going to share with you things that people said. I'm going to share with you my takeaways. What got us here, Paul, I couldn't believe you posted this. What got us here ain't getting us there, dude. And that whole thing of, I got caught up in a LinkedIn thread today, and I think you're to blame because Anthony responded or posted something close to what you said. And it's this idea of, we need more legislation. We need more advocacy. We need more this. We need more that. My takeaway from this weekend is I always believe what got us here ain't getting us there. And it was just amplified. And by the way, it was amplified by people in education, by people in large hospital settings, by people in outpatient settings. What got us here ain't going to do it. And I will jump ahead, and my share is yet we still have the same fucking things planned for this year to draw a change. This is the other thing that I think one of my big takeaways. We compartmentalize everything, right? So it's this problem. And then we don't talk about how this problem's feeding into the other problems. We do that a lot. And my world and my journey here with this front desk, and I got a bunch of posts this week and next week on this ecosystem of the business. We got to look at the ecosystem of the provider world and the client world. And we've got to, I'm going to give a big plug to Outside In. I forget the author's name, but she was actually an San Francisco EO member. She's really the one that pointed this out to me early in my journey, is that in every customer journey, there is business expectations and needs that need to get met. And there are client customer expectations and needs that need to get met. And many times this was the tipping point because I was like, holy shit, they are in conflict. Nobody in healthcare has ever said, please give me fucking paperwork. But every healthcare provider in America says, here's your paperwork. So if we understand those steps and what the needs are on the business side, and this is just me setting and managing expectations, I can make it sound like doing your paperwork is going to let you have a greater experience with your providers. So now I've made this business need and your need more aligned with your need. So back to what we were saying about, we got to look at providers and the clients. I think that was done very well in the room. Yeah. If you were sitting there going, okay, this, okay, how do I mash this together? Okay, this has to be happening with this. But there's a lot of this separation and siloing, which is a popular word in healthcare, of these issues without bringing them back together. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just kind of taking it in, letting you riff on this. I mean, I think that I don't want to put words in your mouth here, though, but like, I guess the question I would ask you would be, with again, you just came off of the Graham sessions for 2024. It's probably hot on your mind. Is anything you talked about or learned there going to change the way you do something, whether it's for your own business or for the practices you advise going forward? Like was there something actionable where you're like, oh man, I'm changing this up next week?
Yes. So, let's face it. Basically, it confirmed some of my biases and beliefs and made them bigger beliefs. One of the big ones, I didn't think it was going to have this big impact on me, which was cool. And again, you go there. And in the past, I always went there to talk, went there to respond. This year, in the last couple of years, I went there to just absorb it, listen, sleep on it, and then maybe share about it the next day, which seems to be a better strategy for me. This idea that our superpower as a profession is in the evaluation and the establishing the plans of care, and that the treatments and techniques are actually technician level things. That has gotten bigger and bigger. And I'll say this out loud, I'm going to say this out loud. I've shared this individually with people. I have encouraged more of my clients to sign what they call healthcare extenders, which I think is a little degrading to some people, and to me too. It's people, it's technicians that work with the providers, right? And PT assistants are the most undervalued, underutilized resources we have at our disposal right now. And here's actually a big takeaway. I connected with an educator at a PTA program, and I've already emailed them. And my goal is to be talking to their class within the next couple months about this opportunity that I see them having. And they, just like the Instagram posts that have taken off recently, I love it. If the business owners are pushing back on my Instagram posts, then I know I'm saying the right fucking thing. Is to get to the schools. I want the kids, and I'm going to say the kids, because I've yet to find one older than me. This future of ours, they get it. They're asking better questions. They're better prepared. There's more information. There's more innovation sitting in their head than anybody that was in that room. And I said that to that room. And by the way, there was maybe 5 people in that room. So I'm going to say everybody, but about 5 people in that room. So they don't know what they don't know. So my goal is to go, look, I want to help you understand. You guys know way more than I did. You probably know way more than I do in a lot of shit, but I want to help you with the stuff you don't know about being successful in here. And I want them to go out and start challenging in a polite way an interview process of going, look, I understand the business side, and I may understand it better than you, person who's signing my paycheck. And I want them to understand their value they bring to the system. For these PTAs, their expertise in whatever they do and working with a team is so valuable in a clinic that values the PT as the evaluator, as the manager of a course of care, working with a team, not as a extender to get more billable units, right? So this is one of my big biases and beliefs that was really leveraged and expanded was the PT's role is to do an evaluation and manage a plan of care. And this gentleman, God bless it, this guy got up twice, and every time he said something that really resonated with me. Someone then stood up and said, we are making progress. This is back to you and your work, Paul. Many states are making progress in getting more percentage-wise and total absolute number-wise increase in evaluation codes, and we're still getting pennies on the dollar on the treatment codes. But yet PTs will go back and be the technician. They'll do an eval. They'll do 5 evals this week, and then they'll do 30 tech follow-ups and bitch because the treatment codes aren't reimbursing or aren't paying properly. But yet, if you go back, getting the increase. So if I got more evals, by the way, some of these same clinics have waiting lists with new patients. I'm like, again, this is why this isn't rocket science. And if it was, I wouldn't be involved. If I have new patients on my waiting list and I have my PTs doing treatments and services, right? I'm doing bad for the community. I'm doing bad for my patients. I'm doing bad for my business. If I had PTs and healthcare extenders, other people, PTAs and other people to do the treatments and the techniques, then I've got more opportunity to serve more people in my community with my expertise. That's the new business model.
See, this is really interesting because so much of the narrative around reimbursement rates has been it's going down, and then everybody freaks out and they, the leaders kind of tell them all to do the same thing. Write a letter to your representative.
I saw that today, and I agree with that fully. I actually, I want to go on that because I got challenged with that. So take what I just said, take what you just said. Okay, Jerry, but we can't really make an impact. I'm like, so someone today wrote this long paragraph and said, and tell me how this is our fault. I said, it's under our control. So therefore it's our fault. My answer was basically 5 words to this big long thing. I'm like, you just described how we've been trying to do. And I was thinking of you as I was writing it. I go, I've been in this 30 years. It hasn't changed. Nothing's gone up. And you want to tell me we need to do more of it. So I don't disagree this is a channel, but there's no fucking way that you can't tell me everything else I just said isn't relevant. We have to take the wins in, right? If we understand our value, then we understand the wins. And the win is in winning bigger payment for evaluations, not for fucking tech codes. So if you don't understand that part, then we're never going to win.
Well, I think and obviously you are way more experienced at this particular thing than I am. But I would say that one of the really uncomfortable truths of this entire topic is that pretty much every other industry has to continue to evolve and to find better ways to fight the constant downward pressure of pricing and increased competition. And like, these are normal things for every industry. But for whatever reason, and particularly as it relates to healthcare, everybody sort of throws their hand up and says, gosh, Medicare keeps cutting the rates, and, like everything is somebody else's fault. But
and that's ultimately what I was trying to get to in that thread. Here's another thing you just said, my second biggest takeaway from the weekend, Paul, and it's a good transition, is the current models. This is the way I understand it, and this is the way I repeat it back. We are currently in a tertiary level of care. And we're never, ever going to advance sitting back and you've done this post recently. We're never, ever, ever going to move forward sitting around and twiddling our thumbs, waiting for someone to call us. We're never going to move forward. That's the profession I walked into. That's the profession I'm still in. Here's the upside from this weekend. There are many, many, many more people every year getting outside of that. But now, hold on. I got to tell everybody, I'm not calling you blow up your fucking current model. This is that silo world. The ability to hold 2 beliefs, right? This principle thinking, one of these terms I just started learning again, right? And this ability to hold 2 beliefs in your head and examine them together in our profession is not one of our strong points. And so understand that tertiary care is not the model of the future. I did not say blow up your fucking brick and mortar. I said that's not the future. So you've got to be looking for other, and I don't mean other revenue streams like wellness. That's further downstream, in my opinion. We got to go further upstream, direct to consumer, direct to whoever, direct to employers, direct to consumer, and offering things, right, that aren't tied in. That was one of my big takeaways. Everybody working direct with employer always finish their talk with, I have no documentation. I have no problems getting paid. I don't have to argue with anybody about codes, blah, 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 blah. PT's in the emergency room, right? Rebecca Griffith, Katie O'Brien. PT's going so far upstream with women that it makes my head spin. Dr. Rebecca Seagraves. These aren't my ideas. These people are doing it and they're busting their ass to get the word out. And they're, by the way, right? So to tell me it's only legislation, to tell me it's only writing letters to Medicare is just fucking stupidity. Then Then you take, right, Dr. Rebecca Seagrave's posting this weekend, look her up on LinkedIn, and challenging this whole world. Our autonomy is at stake if we do this and that. She's like, go work for the OBGYN. They care about their patients. It gives us better access, sooner access. If it's really about what's best for the patients, right? So this whole idea of the tertiary model is not going to work. By the way, if you have it, keep it, but look to add on to it. Get out into the community, do direct to employer, right? You will do less work in the clinic, but yet your clinic will be, and you'll probably make more money, but the clinic will still be there to serve those people in your community that do call you and say, hey, I had acute back pain, right? Or I have chronic problems, or right, whatever it is. But we got it back to your point. We got to expand. We got to look at like every other industry on the face of the earth. By the way, how Blockbuster do sticking with their current model and just looking on how to raise fees, right? Their whole business. I read Thomas, the book you recommended. He opened with that. And I don't know if he did it for effect or really because it was the first time I read it. He claims, Blockbuster's whole model was based around late fees, right? Which, let's face it, my post today about cancels is blowing up everywhere. And I'm like, why charge fees? Right? Oh, because people miss appointments. I'm like, give them something to value. Netflix, right? Give them something to value.
Actually, let's segue into that, because that's actually the first thing on our list today was to talk about that. That post that, and we'll maybe link to it in the show notes here as well. But let me just kind of set you up. You posted about why patients should not be charged a cancellation fee. Let's talk about that. What's the angle there?
So I've been in this pretty long time. I've answered a lot of phone calls. I've treated a lot of patients. I've sat in a lot of waiting rooms. And what I found is the consistency is when someone's calling to cancel, again, like everything, and I love this word ecosystem, and it got used this weekend, and I'm glad it did, right? An ecosystem is understanding the connectedness of all these things occurring in this bubble. So in a healthcare practice, as I started to go upstream, I started to better understand what was happening downstream: cancels, no-shows, drop-offs. And I will say this, one of the things I will promise to people is we will make your no-shows non-existent, right? And by the way, I'll get your answer because they all stem from the same thing. I'm like, I can make your no-shows less than 1%, guaranteed. I don't care where the fuck you are. I don't care what you're serving. I don't care who you're serving. I don't care what insurances you use. Because I said, by the way, a no-show is just, that's respect. Yes, they're going to happen. Yes, things happen in life. But overall, at the end of the year, right, is less than 1%.
Yep.
So as we understand the ecosystem better, as we go upstream, as we look at the impact of touch points in this journey, I've come to the realization that people don't show up. Oh, sorry, let me back up a little more. Cancels are going to happen. So step one is we have to acknowledge cancels are going to happen, and we have to budget for, again, if you're in the Northeast or where you guys are, right, as opposed to California, you got to budget for it. And most places do. So I say you've got a budget for 5 to 8%, maybe 5 to 10% needs to be a line item in your budget. And nobody does that, right? It's always, we need less cancels. I'm like, the fight to zero is impossible. So if I acknowledge 5 to 10% is normal, then that's step one. Step two is take those people out of the equation. And I'm like, it's a value issue at this point. If someone doesn't show up, it's because they didn't value you. And these 21%, 30% cancel rates is you gave people no reason. Here's the other thing. Everybody thinks it's just about the money. I'm like, they got to leave their office. They got to get in the car. They got to drive to you. They got to get out of the car. I said, that's the other big thing I've learned over. It's time and energy. And sometimes it's more the time and energy than the money, because here's the kicker no one ever brings up, Paul, and please punch a hole in this. If it was always about money, why do in-network clinics have the biggest fucking cancel, drop-off, and no-show rates? To me, I'm like, and then I just sit back and go, prove me wrong. If it was only about money, right? So therefore, there's no respect for time and energy and money. I've got to deliver value. I've got to remind you of the value. I got to show you your progress. I got to manage a journey. This goes back to our expertise. This is all tying in well. My job is to manage your journey. That means, you know what that means? I got to remind you, and I have the SOP for this if anybody wants it. I have an SOP. I have a script for remind people when they arrive, why they're there. Here's a process to be followed. And when they leave that visit, remind them why they should return. Again, if it was rocket science, I wouldn't be on this call. This isn't rocket science. And I tell people,
it really just comes
completed course of care is repeating the same visit 300 times. Or sorry, repeating the same process 300 times.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the narrative around cancellations, how do I say this? Like, I come from the consumer world, not necessarily the healthcare world. And so like when we think about, consumer web apps that everybody knows, mint.com or whatever, the reality is it's all about aligning incentives. And so like for me as a dad, for example, the idea of somebody telling me that I'm going to be charged $50 if I cancel within 24 hours. Like, I guess if I'm feeling good on a certain day, I get it, but like, God forbid my kid trip on the floor and hit his head. And now all of a sudden I got to like deal with that. Now it just pisses me off that I got to give you 50.
By the way, here's my favorite part of that, which I think needs to be acknowledged. Your kid trips and falls at home. You take the time to call me and say, Jerry, I'm just not going to be able to make it in. It's a crazy day here. Oh, sure, Paul, we can get you rescheduled. If you don't mind me asking why you canceling. I'm like, fuck you. It is so disrespectful. I said, I want you all to take a step back and understand how disrespectful that is. They owe you nothing, my friends. They really don't. And by the way, trust is earned. Have you earned their trust to even ask them that question? That's the disconnect here, Paul. On top of that, and you're right. And by the way, you shouldn't feel guilty about calling and saying, right, I can't come in, man. You know what else I tell owners along this line, Paul, is you can't. I said, you're not a priority to everybody in your life every fucking day, 100% of the time. So why is everybody on your schedule supposed to prioritize you number one, 365, 24/7? I said, it's so unrealistic and it's disrespectful.
Yeah. Like if I had to be prescriptive here, and this is just me being like a tech nerd about this and coming from the consumer space, I think the thing is you have to make sure the incentives are aligned, and also you need to make sure that the pain, the figurative pain of canceling is sort of aligned with the cause of the cancellation. So what I mean by that is like, I call you, text you, email you as my provider and say, hey man, listen, my kid fell. I got to take him to urgent care. You've got enough empathy to say, hey, no problem. Hope he's okay. Here's a reschedule link, hit the button, right? That there's enough empathy there where you don't burn me. And hey, look, if you got to charge me the $50 because that's worth it to you, fine. It's annoying, but that's fine. But on the flip side, what would be aligning the incentives is making sure that during the rescheduling link, it tells me when the next available appointment is. And now I have to choose whether I show up today or I give up for the next slot, which is 3 weeks away. By the way, I'm in pain or whatever.
Well,
do you know what I'm saying?
Right? Like all of these things coming together, right? All of these things coming together.
Because it's like really what it just comes down to is the consumerization of healthcare and really the consumerization of the practice itself. Like Netflix, you use the Netflix example. So let's just go back to the original version of Netflix when they used to mail you a DVD. The incentive, they didn't say, hey, here's a late fee for not mailing your DVD back in. They just said, you can't get the next one until you mail the last one in. Right? That's incentive enough for me to just watch the video and literally walk it out to the mailbox back then, before I went to bed that night. And even now, like I noticed that our local gym actually is starting to publish check-in rates. So what, like, basically they're saying like, hey, there's 800 people in here now. Like there's actually like a website. It's kind of like the ER, when you drive by the ER, it says like current wait time is 37. Nobody in an ambulance cares what that wait time is. But if I'm driving down the street and I'm like, oh, well, it's only 2 minutes. Let me just go in. You know what I'm saying? It's all about that incentive. And this all comes back to this. Go for it.
Let's
Go.
bring that back. Let's bring that back a little bit to healthcare and where the incentive is, right? The incentive is you understand your plan of care, Paul, that I laid out for you. You understand the journey that you're on with. You've heard this before. You understand the journey that you're on with me. You understand that you're making a choice that could possibly back to your thing. So I just want to tie it all back. You're looking at this. I want you looking at the rescheduling, going, I'm on a journey with Jerry. We talked about this. I know I'm making progress. And shit, he didn't have anything else for 2 weeks. Now, I'm not challenging your fucking priority today. I'm not telling you, I wouldn't even charge you $50 for that. I wouldn't even threaten you with $50 for that because you have a choice to make about your journey with us now, Paul. And by the way, if you choose your kid over that journey and you call me back, I'm probably going to find another slot for you, my friend, right? So it's about a relationship. It's about an understanding of the roles of the relationship. It's on a journey that was mapped out. No different, Paul. I swear, right? We're doing a journey together. I mapped out a journey from California to New York, and you're driving, and you have a setback, right? And now you're going to be a day late, right? What am I going to do, right? So what, right? You didn't have control over it. I didn't. So what, right? What am I going to do? You're going to call me. We understand each other. We both knew the journey. We respect each other.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like it'd be a fun exercise at some point is like, not today, of course, but like someday it would be fun. Maybe we'll do this later this year. We'll maybe record it it would be fun to kind of design sort of a whiteboard design of a modern physical therapy practice that is fully designed with, the patient's experience as the primary factor.
I've got it.
No, okay, let's talk about that.
I got it on
because
X-Mind. I mapped it out for my client.
Yeah, I mean, like for me as a patient, if you piss me off with a $50 cancellation fee or whatever, what you're implicitly doing is threatening to throw away all the future value. Because for me as a patient, the service you provide is fungible, right? And this is what I love about Tony Maritato's message, right? Like he's talking about like building that brand of the PT, because now it's more than just, oh, he fixed my knee. It's Tony fixed my knee. And now I'll do anything to go see Tony or whatever it is, right?
Well, right. So and again, this is why I was tying it back to the plan of care, but let's go back further in the ecosystem. If I didn't share some value about how Jerry is the right fit for you, then yes, I am replaceable. And yes, I pissed you off with that $50 cancel fee. And by the way, Paul, I'll start this way with a lot of practice owners. I'm like, is $50 worth losing a client?
That's bingo. That's what I was trying to get at. That's it right there.
Yeah,
is your cancellation fee really worth throwing away the entire patient relationship?
Into everything, in throwing away the entire relationship. And let's talk about the money side, and let's talk about future value. And because future value is Facebook review.
Actually, I don't mean to cut you off, but let me. Yeah. I know you and I have both. You and I both have this like common history in San Francisco, and we've talked about it in previous episodes. But you and I both have that common connection back to the San Francisco tech scene and all that, right? So we think about customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, and all that. So, for example, in one of my other businesses, it costs us about $70 to get a client, and we know that we're going to get, $500 a year off of that in terms of recurring monthly revenue. So, as long as we do our job right, we'll spend $70, I mean, if you had a model where you could spend $70 to get a client and then know you were going to make $600 a year on autopilot for 4 years, that's the proverbial magic tree of money. Go, let's do it, right? Just ballpark. I know every state's different or whatever, but if I, as a patient, walked into your practice right there in California, what do you expect? Just ballpark napkin math it. What am I worth to you as a, lifetime value? Like assuming everything, like I'm an average patient, I'm 42 years old. Am I worth $1,000 to you a year in terms of reimbursements?
So let me do this instead of my client, instead of my clinic, Paul, because I'm talking to more and more people every day. So I'm going to say countrywide, if we took everybody running a clinic, I'm going to say it's roughly $1,000. It's probably a couple $100 north or south of that. So I think $1,000 is a safe place to go. Now,
Steve,
you and
that
I
is
both
insane to
know,
me that somebody would
that
risk throwing away
customer
$1,000 a year client over a
for
$50 late fee or a
50
cancellation fee.
fucking dollar cancel fee. And by the way, what was your customer acquisition fee?
Right. Let me just give you an example here, by the way. Like, I called I use American Express as my primary credit card for everything. And for whatever reason, the other day, like when I hit the the monthly payment button, I guess I hit it twice. And so I got 2 alerts, and I was like, oh, that's annoying. So you can't cancel it online. So I call, and sure enough, I got this frontline person. I was like, hey, I hit this button. And she was like, oh, sir, I could have canceled it if you'd called within an hour of you hitting the button.
I had this call yesterday with my bank.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? I pay you $600 a year for me and another $600 a year for my wife to have this card. And you're telling me that because I called you at the end of the workday, as opposed to within 10 seconds of me hitting are you kidding me? You're going to throw away this relationship for $1,200 or this $1,200 a year relationship for this? And the frontline person's like, well, yeah, that's the job. And I'm like, all right, well, make a note and let me know. And sure enough, 3 hours later, I got a message pushed to my phone. Oh, sir, we're so sorry. Thank you for being a member here since 2006. We've refund or we've can't. The point is, though, is that like American Express is smart enough to realize you don't give up the money that your existing customers are coming. They're given. Well, anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? It's like every other industry has figured this out.
So let me bring you the problem. This is what's funny. You and I are talking solutions. We flip this. So everybody likes to come into the room and talk about the problem, the cancel, without the solution, without the true solution, without taking in all these components. So I can tell you already what you're going to hear, Paul, is I don't have any room on my schedule. No, sorry. What you're going to hear from this same business owner is that they're willing to give up that relationship. You know why? Because they're sitting on the pile of burning cash, which is what? A waiting list. And so when you drop off there, they have limited capacity, right, Paul? So in the model you just gave, there's unlimited capacity potentially, right? We just keep adding $600 customers. So because I go through this with my clients, with the brick and mortar space, here we go again. Now, mind you, let me talk out this cycle a little bit, because this is where all those pieces come together. Why do I have a waiting list? Because I can't find more employees, but I got a shitload of PTs doing fucking treatments and services all day. So this is funny. This all comes back. And so if you want to talk about an ecosystem and solving this problem and realizing the providers in the business, right? Oh, I have a wait list because I can't find any providers, but yet those providers are feeding everybody. So they will allow the $1,000 customer to leave and drop the next one down. So
See,
I know, dude.
I'm so cynical about this, man. I mean, you get it. You get it. But I'm so cynical about this. It's like somebody tells me, "Oh, Paul canceled on me, so now I'm going to not only charge Paul, but gosh, woe is me. Now I have this empty slot." Like everything's about
I agree,
complaining,
dude.
me, right?
I keep
We're
telling
not talking
people,
about going to Mars here, guys. Like, you know what you do? You take all the email addresses, which hopefully you're already collecting. You take all the email addresses and phone numbers of all the people that are scheduled with you for the next 2 weeks, and you email them or message them immediately and say, I've got an opening at 3:20 Eastern today. First one that replies gets it. Now I'm oversimplifying here, right? But like, to your point, nobody's talking about solutions.
and
They're kind of
Anthony
talking
has
about,
ideas about how to manage this, and ways of not all visits are the same value and everything. So I mean, yeah, there are different strategies for this. Yet I don't even want to get to the solutions, right? I just want to talk about, we can't even define the problems, and then like this post today, you tell me keep doing the same thing, right? This is one of my favorite examples. Jerry, I need your help with cancels. I say, Paul, do you want me to help you with a cancel call, or do you want me to prevent the cancel? And that's when I get the dead air, and I know we've made some progress. But I'm like, there's a difference there. Most people are trying to manage the cancel. I'm like, get rid of it. Drive more value upstream. Make sure people understand the value they are coming for, and then deliver on that value. And please, God, healthcare, the bar is so low, the value you deliver does not have to be that great.
Yeah. Yeah. I love your takeaway though earlier. You said something like, first of all, you got to bake in that 5 to 8% cancellation
Yeah.
rate because stuff
Yeah.
happens. Somebody
Right.
trips, the car stops working, there's an ice storm.
The
I
ice
love
storm.
that sort of tactical advice there. And I think what you're alluding to as a potentially second sort of all-encompassing bucket is that once you've allocated that, or once you've baked in that 5 to 8%, cancel
Then
rate,
there's less pressure
then
on the whole team.
right. And then the second part is for that remaining set of cancels that's happening, you kind of got to be honest about why it's happening. And
See,
chances
and
are
it's not
it's because
until we break it up. It's not once you
right.
break it up, then you got to go, oh fuck, he's right.
Yeah. Well, it's because it forces you to realize the problem's probably not them, the patient. It's you, the provider. Ding, 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 right? It's like, you know, like, what was the old thing that everybody used to say in Silicon Valley? It's like the goal is to build the painkiller, not the vitamin, you know?
Oh yeah, right.
I know I'm
Right.
supposed to take my vitamins, but Lord knows I haven't refilled them or gone to the store. I just never forget. I never remember to get them. But man, you better believe I'm stocked up on Motrin and ibuprofen here because I got a lot of kids, and that's the one thing I don't want to run out of. So I'm half joking, half serious here, by the way. Maybe we need to create like a Durham sessions. It'd be like the Jerry version. It's like the Durham sessions where like no complaining is allowed, solutions only.
Well, no, you have
Nothing
to
against
bring
the
a
Graham
problem
sessions or
forward,
whatever.
right? You got to bring a problem
Right.
forward. This is why I tell everybody, all you do is complain. I'm like, I'm happy to share all the solutions. I'm telling you because
Right.
you guys won't stop with this, right?
Right.
And so again, doubling back to the Graham sessions, I really love the information I got because so much of what I've heard, 90% of it confirmed my biases and beliefs, and I'm just leveraging it. And I learned other leverage points that I didn't know existed, like this whole idea I've shared with you about doing more with the younger part of the generation, the students. I talked to some great educators there from programs that are definitely different. All I'm going to say is they're different, man. And they are going to be snatching up more and more students. And the old models, stuck in their old ways, charging a lot of money, are going to be short.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see some supply and demand, basic fucking economics, the law of economics start to take over in PT school. And we're going to create more innovative people who are going to show up and not tolerate the status quo.
Yeah, the uncomfortable. Okay, so unsolicited comment here, but the enemy of PT seems to be like the boogeyman that's always around the corner. It's look at the cuts, look at this, look at that. When really the truth is that the real boogeyman for the industry is ourselves.
Go to my Twitter account. Go to my Twitter account. Go to my page under the search page, title "The Calls Are Coming from Inside the House," and see how many times I've posted that in the last 6 months. The calls, and I know most people it goes over their heads, but I'm just like, I keep responding to stuff. The calls are coming. I'll never forget when I first saw it, I fucking peed myself. The calls are coming from inside the house, my friends. There is no boogeyman. There is no boogeyman. There is no boogeyman. And by the way, I just watched the last John Wick the other day, and they said Bobby Yeager once. There is no boogeyman. There is no John Wick out there, man. I want to be John.
Yeah,
John Wick's a superhero. Yeah. I want to go on the record. John Wick is a superhero. So next time someone asks superheroes, John Wick has to be taken into consideration. That last one, I really dug it.
You alluded to when we were talking about this idea of like what the modern day practice should look like if we, put a patient's experience first. You said you already got the model. So, is it on your website somewhere? Like how, like
No,
what?
I do it for my clients. Actually, I probably jumped the gun a little bit there, Paul. But what I've done is I took clients' journey. I took businesses I was working with, and we mapped out their patient's experience and all the touch points and what needed to happen at those, with all the SOPs, with recordings, with videos. So what I love about it is, and I think, Paul, you'll get this better than most people, the traditional training structure, the traditional way to train people and onboarding people was based on a organizational chart, right, of the business. I created basically the organizational chart is based on a client's journey. So I gave this to people saying, use it for the interview. Say, we understand our clients so well. We've mapped out their journey, and all the work to be done is here, not in an organizational chart under CFO, COO. And so I pride myself, and this is what I'm seeing when I've created that and cancel policy, the SOP for the cancel policy. But you know what's kind of cool? If you went into this and heard the conversation for the cancel policy and saw this journey and saw all this work being done in the pre-arrival process, someone should have to come in and go, why are we charging a cancel policy? We have all this opportunity to make sure people don't cancel, to do this, to do that. That's what I love about building out this business structure, shall we call it? No. I don't know what we call it. Business journey, patient journey. So the business and all of the hires and everybody is broken down by the patient's journey, not by who they report to. There's no reporting lines in there. You don't know what the fucking CFO or the COO. What you know is if you work the front desk, you own this. If you're a provider, you own this. If you're billing, you own this. And all of it relates to what? A successful client journey, which is what? Arrive, pay, and stay. So that's what I have.
I love it, man. I love it. What else should we beat? Good.
And well, I think coming back to Graham sessions, it was really cool because you asked me, and I tell you, most of my beliefs and biases have been increased. I left with a lot of questions. I'm going to be following up with a lot of people about certain things, but it's to reinforce that this current model will not work. And by the way, I would like to say it all defaults to my big overarching vision and mission, or my big mission is what's best for the patient is best for business. Here we are again. And really, anybody who could argue with you that it's best for a person to keep them in the current fucking system needs their head examined. So I get to default to go, I've been preaching this forever. And what's best for the patient is not to be a patient.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going upstream to do this? Now, let me give you an example again. Dr. Rebecca Seagraves, right? I've talked with her. We're trying to go so far upstream is to get a hold of me, right? So her big push is C-sections and making sure women with C-section, she has to get to them earlier. And we've gone so far upstream, right, that people, by the time they got to make that choice or by the time they had it, everything would be in line. Again, we're back to that cancel where it just like, you understand the value, you understand why you need to do the things to you, and you get to this point. Again, I've done clinics. This is the other thing I got to share, and I didn't share, is the clinics I work with who go through the front desk training, who implement it. I got a guy with a call. Someone wants me to come back in and retrain. We didn't touch anything but their front desk. We dropped their company-wide cancels down by 50%. So you guys tell me where the impact is on cancels. It's on managing and setting expectations. It's on aligning values before they arrive. So back to the pregnant women and C-section people, that the further upstream we go and the bigger we can get the value in their head of doing all this work, the less problems we'll see downstream, right? So it works for everybody. It works for patients. It works for business. It works for everyone.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Strata Stories. Strata is a single EMR platform and revenue cycle management service for physical, occupational, and speech therapy practices that helps you achieve a 99.99% reimbursement rate. If you'd like to learn more about Strata and see how our EMR and RCM works, head over to stratapt.com to book a demo.